Hey guys, this is Dardamos with Dardamos Dominions. Joining me as last time is JoBrandon. Say hi, Joe.
Hi.
And the genius that came up with the upper left hand, the speaking guide thing up here is Mandar. Hi, Mandar.
Hello, hello.
Okay, so just so you guys know, we are having some sound issues with Discord right now, so you're not going to be able to see who's talking, but you can at least see the co-host for today, which I'm really excited about. And we get to do this once again. What's the password? Oh, that's it. Okay, and we've started this thing 3 times, so let's go to you, Joe. What is so Dominion has went up for Van because he's gotten a free temple. What does that do for you? What does the extra Dominion do for you?
Obviously, it allows you to have 1 higher Dominion in provinces, which protects you better against other scales. It allows you to push better. Specifically, it allows your temples to succeed more often in the check. There's also, I think, a conflict thing going on that I'm not entirely sure on the map for. And of course, it allows you to recruit more sacreds.
Now, Mandar, do you like to play a strong Dominion game? This is really gonna be hard to talk about. Do you like playing with a high Dominion score? What do you do for Dominion?
Personally, I mostly sit around 4 to 6 points of Dominion. Erring higher if I have sacreds I want to recruit. Erring lower if I don't. Too much more than that can be pretty expensive. Too much less than that can be dangerous for not getting your scales where you want them to be. And not getting your scales where you want them to be can be very bad for your income.
Okay, so moving on, Airmore has created an archbishop. Joe, what is an archbishop? Why would he pick an archbishop over something else?
So an archbishop is a holy tree that Ermor can summon. If you prophetize holy trees, they get 1 extra level of holy. So this one would be holy 4. Now, something special about holy 4s for Ermor specifically is that they get access to a spell called Power of the Sepulchre. Power of the Sepulchre gives all undead on the battlefield an attack and defense bonus. Maybe also other bonuses, but I'm not entirely sure on that. They also have a AoE version of that spell, but it's, of course, much simpler if you can just cast the entire battlefield version.
Now, interestingly enough, I did a battlefield version with an Airmore style, and it had it was like an MR resist for it. Does Airmore's spells have that?
I believe this specific one does not, but I think that the magic resistance version does.
Okay.
So that's so that your mages and such tend to not get the buff, but your undead do. It's the thinking, at least, behind making them MR negates.
Now, if you put a pen on it, would that actually hurt you? Do you know the answer to this question, Mandar? Do you know it either?
If you put a pen on it?
Okay, so for example, Olm has a spell that's an Earth one that if you...
if you increase penetration.
Yeah, if you do pen on that...
A pen boosting item.
Does that mean that you're less likely to buff your own troops?
No, that would increase your chances of buffing your troops and your mages.
So it increases your chance?
Yeah, because...
they need to fail.
Exactly.
Oh, wow, okay. So advanced Airmore strats, and Olmish strats, I guess.
Yeah, it's something you can do, especially since an Eye of the Void is only 5 astral. Just can throw one of those on there.
Okay, so we have the final battle between, I guess it could be not the final battle, between Vanheim and Ashdod. Joe, predictions on how this will go out, ignoring if you saw the results.
Ignoring if I saw the results. Well, it would depend a lot on the bless. Usually this would favor the Vanheim sides just because they have more gold in this equation. But if the Vanheim had a particularly light bless and the Ashdod had a particularly heavy one, say 4th gen bond or something like that, Fortitude Regeneration Blood Bond, then I could see this working out in the favor of the Ashdod. Knowing what I do, this is definitely in the favor of the Vanheim player, though.
Now,
looking at the mages they have there right behind those big sacred troops, that could also favor them if they've got those mages scripted to put down some really nasty buffs, like Marble Warriors or something.
If there's some body ethereal on these Anakites, that could cause some problems. No, wait, do those elves have magic weapons? I forget.
I think they do once they're blessed. Let's do the blessing stuff. Okay, there we go.
Yeah, in that case, the Astral Boys don't help much.
Oh, yeah.
The only hope there would have been a few good casts of body ethereal.
And we've kind of beat this horse to the ground a couple times. But what do you think about this bless, JoBrandon?
So, it's a very resistance-heavy bless. I could see something like this working out well for something a bit more elfy. Anakites generally want something a bit more meaty on their bless.
What would you be? So we talked about this in the Lost episode, Mandar. What would you be doing as a research goal as the Ashdod player in order to make this be more in your favor?
I'm going to level with you. I do not know how much research Ashdod actually has, and what they really have to work with. You know, if they could get something like Marble Warriors out, that would be lovely. But they probably, looking at this being most of their army, I don't think they actually have the infrastructure to make that happen.
I want to say it's turn 19. Say things have gone average-ish. Well, you know, you're probably at maybe 3 to 4 and maybe about 2 different paths. What paths do you pick and what do you aim for?
Alteration for body ethereal, luck, twist fate, stuff like that might be good. Elementals would be really good, because those, at least the little berserkers out front, would get mulched by fire elementals. Some flaming arrows might not hurt, but probably wouldn't turn the tide. And maybe legions of steel or something would be good. With that little research, it's hard to have a huge impact.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have anything to add, Joe?
Well, of course, the elves in this case have magic weapons, so body ethereal is not going to work out very well. There are cases where
all
with this
the elves. Not all the elves. Just
the important ones.
I think the berserkers are pretty important.
I didn't notice those weren't sacred. Yeah, in that case, body ethereal might be quite important indeed. But if
I forgot about Earthmeld.
Yeah, Earthmeld as well. It looks like, yeah. So I'm quickly looking, and they don't really have any nature. It would allow them to at least cast like protection or something like that if they go into alteration, but I'm not seeing it.
I'm kind of interested in the Earthmeld, because with Earthmeld, what would that do to the elves? Why would that be good? Would it be good against the Einhirs, or would it be good against the Horsies, or both, and why? Go to Mandar on this one.
It would be good against both. It would break up their formations. Earthmeld sort of just traps your feet in the ground. It breaks up your formations because you can't move. It destroys your attack and defense skill because you can't move. And that's really good, especially against the Horsies, because they normally rely on having really high defense skill. And if their defense skill goes to nothing, suddenly they can get shanked really easily. And of course, it keeps you from actually damage because they can't swing. And with elf strength, it's pretty hard to break out.
Excellent. Okay, well, let's move on to the next one. So, there was a mistake made here. JoBrandon, do you want to go into why this turned so badly? I mean, he's got 103 guys. There's only 27 down here. What happens?
First guess, Commander got his ass slaughtered. It's possible the Long Dead didn't get a good surround on the Knights too, because that's what the Long Dead needs to actually kill the Knights. Oh, I see that sensor. I see that sensor. Or maybe it's not him? No, the Long Dead are just getting murdered. Yeah, the sensor's doing work. Yeah, so what happened here is that the blob of Knights was too large, so the Skeletons couldn't get good surround. Skeletons can kill Knights. They can't kill a blob of Knights very well.
He lost his sensor. That's a big deal too. It takes does it take death gems to make sensors?
I believe so. I know the Mount Kings come free, but I'm not sure about the sensors. Yeah, Revive sensor costs 4 F gems.
Oh, we got Saquenay has just joined the channel. Let me see if I can get him into get his Steam code. Okay, and then let's move on to the next let's move on to the next fight, and I'll get you guys something to talk about while I get him in on this call. Okay, boring. Man, guys, I think we actually have a very boring turn. I can't believe this. This is amazing. This is the first time we've ever gone 11 minutes on a single turn. This is awesome. I'm so proud of us.
What was going on in Marignan with burning their demons?
No, don't do this to me. Okay,
I'm doing it to you.
Fine.
Why did Marignan have demons?
Okay, for some reason... Oh, yeah, there we go. Okay, wait, hold on. How do I... Let me get my name. Okay, so Marignan, we have our scout there, and he is undead, and he's just taking damage. So, there's another
okay.
undead site. It's really cool. We'll actually be seeing another one as well. Let's talk about that right now. With the Marignan versus Aramor matchup, how does Aramor deal with the Marignan, that burningness? How are you able to do that? Let's go with Joe. How do you do that?
So that burningness only applies in their capital. You can still completely cripple Marignan without even worrying about their capital. And once you do have that, all you need to do is overwhelm the defenses, because it's only damage. It doesn't automatically kill everything.
Now, is that something that you care about then? If you're fighting Marignan, do you avoid Marignan, or do you take that fight?
I would still take the fight against Marignan, because hilariously, Marignan isn't actually that well positioned against Ermer. Despite their undead killing roots and all their undead killing spells, they are not all that good at dealing with large swaths of long dead. They can summon fire elementals, but you can just sort of exhaust those fire gems if you don't already just break past them. Long dead can also attack rear, even if they're not particularly faster than even if they're not particularly fast.
Okay, so do I have permission to say that we have had the fastest turn ever? Is there anything else that you guys want to see?
Nope, I'm satisfied.
Okay, good. Mm-hmm. Let's move on to turn 20. Dude, I'm so excited.
Oh, actually, Dardamos.
Oh, screw you, dude. Screw you. Okay, so again, two very boring... I'm sorry, guys. Two very boring turns in a row. Was this is a different turn, right? Did we get... Okay, I did send... Okay, Saquenay should be here soon. Did you get the invite? And so let's look at the first message from Pangea, who is played by Jared. he found a crystal cavern, and I'm kind of curious at this point. Let's move into here real quick, and let's talk about graphs. In your opinion, what graphs matter for what nation? Let's go with you. Let's go with Mandar. Let's go with you first, dude.
Provinces matter for everyone because everyone likes provinces. They're gold, they're gems, and they're also sort of territorial control. They're pretty much a good shorthand for your income and your gem graphs. Army size is a joke graph, but dominion, forts, and research are also important. With research, I do feel the need to say it's not how much research you have, it is how you use it.
Saquenay, did you make it in here?
I should be here. Can you guys hear me?
Yes,
Ooh,
I need to
echoey.
mute you in Discord. Yeah, he's in Discord as well, so we gotta mute him there. Actually, can you mute yourself, dude? There we go. Okay, so let's go to Joe real quick. Who likes income?
Who likes income? Pretty much everyone but Popkill nations.
Oh no, Popkill nations still like income.
Well, yes, they like it, but they don't have it for very long, and they care less about not having it. A nation like Ermer will only require income for a short amount of time while it builds all of its forts. That said, I think Ermer kills population too fast to fort all of its provinces. So they still like it. There are very few situations in which income is not important. There's a reason that Gift of Nature's Bounty is considered one of the game-winning globals.
Now, Saquenay, with gem income, how much do you prioritize early game gem searching?
That's by the way, sorry, I just want to make sure my audio sounds okay because now we're doing
You sound
through
wonderful.
Steam. Okay, great. Yeah, gem income is really important, but how early you can afford to do it is really going to depend both on your nation and on sort of the situation. If you have like early research targets you need to hit to be viable in the early game, maybe you can't afford to send all your mages out site searching. And some nations just have better site searchers than others. So that's going to depend, I think, that's going to depend more like on a game-by-game basis. And also it depends a lot what kind of mages you have for site searching. Obviously, more
JoBrandon,
gems is better.
Yes?
I'm seeing like a 0 here on Ulm. What the heck happened?
Yeah, you've got me there, actually. I'm not sure if that's actually 0. That is actually lower than his starting income graph.
How do you get to 0 gem income? Do either of you guys know how to do that?
No, I don't know how to do that. Even if you get your capital set on, you'll
He loses
oh
cap?
wait, he had his lab burned down. He had
That's
his
what
lab
happened.
burned down.
Oh, that makes sense.
Wow.
Yep.
Okay, so if you lose your only lab, you'll lose all 0, or you'll lose it all.
Yeah.
It's
Similar to tracing income.
Mandar, if you're playing
But
Ulm, would you sacrifice your income or your research income, or sorry, your research in order to get gem income? Is that worth it?
Ulm doesn't really need gems too desperately, but I would sacrifice a bit.
What's your thoughts, Saquenay?
Yeah, as Ulm, I think for your gem, all you're going to get is like earth and maybe a bit of fire, right? So maybe you wait until you get one of your randoms, like an air random or an astral random, and you start searching with those. And in the meantime, because Ulm is a nation that probably does need to hit early research pretty fast, like it maybe wants to rush evocation, for example. But getting more, like you're getting 6 earth per turn, getting like more earth is not like game changing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What would you do, Joe, if you got a bunch of gems with what do you do with a glut of gems?
Is this a serious game?
Are there any other kind?
I'm just saying, if I wasn't taking my game as very seriously, I would thuck the hell out of Black Lords. There would be Black Lords all over my empire.
No, I mean that's still.
Granted,
I mean, I think
Black Lord
quasi-
thugs are still viable, but not to the degree where I would be using them if I was fooling around. If you were if you were a serious Ulm with extra gems, of course it would depend on what kind of gems you have. If there were extra earth gems, a lot of them, and you didn't need any more for forging or hammers or whatever, earth elementals are a decent use. Earth elementals are some of the weaker types of elementals, but they're still very useful. They can swing a battle just like any other elemental.
Now, when I first started playing Dominions, I got so enamored. Like, almost my first nation that I really fell in love with. It's the first nation I played with. And I got to see all these, the armor and the swords, and I put them on the guys, and I sent them into battle, and they died.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you do with Ulm? I mean, like, what? They've got this amazing ability to craft things, but they don't have a chassis to actually put it on. Saquenay, what do you do with this?
Yeah, so, I mean, thugging in general is a pretty involved topic, but I would say that what Ulm excels at is making cheap thugs. So a Black Lord in particular, I think what you would do is you would give it a magic sword instead. So the Black Lord, maybe you could bring up one up and we can look at it really quick.
That's a good idea.
So the Black Lord, like you said, Ulm doesn't have a great chassis, right? But the Black Lord, its default weapon is a Morning Star. And if you click on it, you'll see that it actually gives you +1 to attack, but -2 to defense. And if you look at the unit stats, that results in 13 defense. Now, if you replace that weapon with like a construction 2, like sword of sharpness or whatever, right? That's going to give you like +1 attack, +2 defense, something like that, whatever, some kind of item like that, right?
The great sword of sharpness.
Not
gives
even a great
defense.
sword. Yeah, I was saying just a one-hand weapon to keep the shield, right? You keep the default kite shield, but just forging a one-hand sword weapon, that's gonna swing the defense of that unit from 13 to like 16 because you're taking away a malice of 2 and you're adding like maybe 1 or 2 on top of it. And plus, and it's just as killy, right? So, and that costs 1 earth gem as Ulm, right? Then maybe you make like a bracer of defense, add another 2 defense, another 2 protection. That's another single earth gem. So for 2 earth gems, you've made this chassis into like an elf with 25 protection, right? That's pretty good, right? Because it's going to be like 25 protection, 19 defense. So it doesn't mean it's like a super combatant, no, but for 2 earth gems, that's a pretty nice budget thug.
Is it worth the mage turn?
That's before you fluff it up with Iron Warriors for Iron
Skin. For sure. Sorry, what was your question, Dardamus? Is it worth it? What?
Yeah, I mean, is it worth the mage turns? And I mean, like, where would you use this in your army when you've already got Iron Blizzard and all that other stuff? Like, what is
so this would be, this guy would go and raid PD, right? This guy with those 2 items can take on 6 PD no problem, right? So, and you can recruit them everywhere in all your forts. You can make infinite amount of swords and bracers because they're 1 earth gem each, and you have 6 earth gems per turn. So you can just you can almost elf people. I mean, they don't have glamour, but as like little thugs that can go around killing small armies. And then honestly, in a big battle, you just stick them with a few other cav and hold an attack rear and they'll do fine there. And because it only costs you 2 earth gems, you're not super sad if you lose them. And so I think that's the key to kind of thugging with early on, is just really cheap items that you don't really mind if you lose because you didn't spend a lot on it.
Now, Mandar,
I should mention you're going. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say the real thing you want to do is Construction 6 and Lightless Lanterns.
All right. Mandar, I mean, if you were going to do this guy with a raider, would you send him by himself? Would you add a couple of these Black Knights with them? Would you put like 2 of them? How exactly would you be raiding with him?
I'm going to level with you. I am not an expert on ideal play for Middle Era Ulm, but my intuition says 2 Black Lords because they fit in a square, and 1 Master Smith set to maybe drop Iron Warriors and Legions of Steel. That would boost their proc up really, really high, basically to unwoundable territories, and then you can probably take on PD dumps.
Well, I kind of like this. It's a bit of a tangent. Do you have a specialty area, like a special kind of nation that you gravitate towards?
Not particularly, because I make every nation that I play into a thug nation.
Okay. Every single one of them.
Very close to it.
Is that why you avoid MA Ulm?
No, I recently played them in 1 blitz. It's just that I play every nation I can, and there's so many nations. I just haven't really gotten to them yet.
Now, Joe, do you normally gravitate towards like giants or like, you know, something with super combatants? Is there any type of general theme in the nations that you play?
So, you might be able to notice this from my picture, but I absolutely adore Early Age Maverny. It is one of my favorite nations in the entire game. That aside, however, because I could talk about Early Age Maverny for this entire episode, and I don't think that's a good idea.
But what about them in specific is that draws them to you? Is it the free spawn aspect of it? Is it their past? Is it that they're humans? What is it that draws you to a nation? It's their
sheer efficiency. There are very, very few nations that can pack as much power in a certain amount of gold as Maverny can.
You're really right. Maverny has some incredibly gold-efficient stuff.
Mm-hmm. Not even mentioning the fact that their infantry is like reliable chaff that against specific nations is even amazing chaff if they don't have magic weapons. Saquenay cost 45 gold for Astral 1. That's huge. They have access to the free spawn, of course, which is very annoying to deal with. They have a massive weakness in Beast Mastery, but that's very high research. And even once you get there, if you strike enough places at once, they're going to run out of Beast Mastery casters. That is a hard thing to cast.
Now, Saquenay, what about you? Do you have like a certain type of nation that you enjoy playing?
Yeah, for sure. And Maverny is definitely one of my favorites. For me, more generally, I guess I've always been more of a human nation player and communion nations in particular. And I don't think it just kind of happened. Like I was playing human nations, like I played Maverny, Tianchi, Man, and I think you get addicted to communions. you get addicted to the fact that like, oh well, I don't have a mage in this path, but if I get a indie with just 1 path, I could put a Crystal Matrix on him, and now I can cast Fog Warriors or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I just had that experience, and then when I play a nation that doesn't have communions, I'm like, well, shit, what do I do now?
You know, it's funny you say addicted. I know many people have overdosed. Nah.
Well, yeah, I mean...
So keep going, sorry. Are you still there, Saquenay?
Yeah, I am. Keep
going,
not
dude.
here anymore?
Keep going.
Okay. Yeah, no, so I have a soft spot for human nations, although I've played a couple of games now of the Ashdod and Gath family of nations. And I like Gath a lot too. I mean, they're giants, but they're, you know, they've got blood. So blood communions work too. I'm kind of exploring the blood nations now a bit more than I have in the past. But yeah, I love me some cheap Astral 1 mages.
Now, do you think it's better to play a nation over and over again, or do you think it's better to get experience with multiple nations?
I think that'll depend on what you enjoy. I'm always torn when there's a new game. Like I so badly want to revisit some nations that I played like 2 years ago because I could do them so much better now. But on the other hand, it's like there are still like 40 nations I haven't really played. And it's like I'm always torn between that personally. So I try to play new nations, partly because I'm doing videos on YouTube and I want to showcase different things. But if I had infinite time, I would go back and do more MA Tianchi and MA Man and stuff like that.
Now, JoBrandon, when you go to join a game, do you join a game because of the era, because the nation's free? What normally attracts you to a specific game that you want to join?
So what usually happens when I join a new game is I have thought about a specific thing I want to do with a nation, and I'm just like, okay, I really want to try this out. I really want to try this out. So I do look up on Era. Most recently, that was with Maverny. I just really wanted to play them again. They are the nation I've played the most. But another thing, for example, is I joined a late age game because I wanted to tug with late age TNG because I found some weird interactions with unaging. And I just could not resist the 15 attack, 15 defense Ancestor Smiths. Although that nation ended up being taken from me, so I ended up memeing at people with Bogarus and Firebirds, but that's a whole another story.
I was curious about that one because I thought the last one I heard you do was Bogarus, and that's another nation that's very similar to Maverny in certain ways, correct?
In a way, yes. They have some very different weaknesses and strengths. Bogarus is very, very good at having really, really good mages. It is amazing at it, in fact. They have some of the best mages in the entire game. In fact, I believe that Master of Names are literally the best researchers in the entire game. Or the fastest, I should say. They get like 20 research for 1 turn. But their troops are just really hard to play around with.
So Mandar, let's say that you are going to join the tournament. I think Lucid's tournament's coming up here in at least, probably a month or two, and you want to
November.
win. Let's say you join that one and you want to win. This is one that you're going to do. Are you going to pick a strong nation or a nation that you're comfortable with?
Probably a nation that I'm comfortable with. The difference between a strong nation and a mediocre nation is not as big as the difference between a nation that I'm comfortable with and experienced with and a nation that I don't know how to play. I learned that firsthand recently in a game where I played early era Pangea, and I got trashed.
Mm-hmm.
Was that because what was the thing that caused that to happen?
I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. It was also high. Blokes had convinced me that awake researchers were a good idea. Trust me, they are not a good idea. Don't do that. Don't do that.
If you ever listen to Blowax, he is either the smartest guy in the world or the craziest one in the world, and you just don't know you don't know if he's trolling or actually being like really smart. But he loves his point buffs system. Saquenay, do you know the point buff that he kind of subscribes to?
I'm not sure what he's referring to, but I might know the concept under another name. What's his idea?
Area of Effect 1 buffs.
Yeah.
Body Ethereal.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, those are super strong on some nations for sure. Especially the formation fighter nations. Like a great example is, let's say, late age Arcocephaly. Their sacreds have formation fighter 4, so you can fit 5 size 2 sacreds with spears in one square. And they're like astral, so you can like go in body ethereal luck. Like that's really deadly. So that can be super strong. In the right nation. It's not great for like giants or cavalry, but it really depends on the nation.
I really want to go farther into this, but we've only gone through this first line and we're already at 35 minutes. So,
yeah.
Okay, favorable
Feels
battle.
like we
in
went
action.
on a tangent.
Yeah, just a little. All Van Herses were keyed successfully, so Van is in the driver's seat right now. He finally killed the Eternal Knights, guys.
Good job.
Oh, hey.
Finally.
Oh my. Okay, so let's. Okay, Scaleria goes in against the throne. And nice thing is you guys have all seen this one before because of the mishap with the sound. And you guys said that this was going to be an easy throne to take.
Yep.
So I don't think we really need to watch too much of this. We're seeing some mind burns and some boring stuff. 128 guys, that doesn't seem like a lot, or that doesn't seem like a cheap throne, or is it? Let's go with JoBrandon. What's your thought? Is this cheap?
Completely and utterly free. All he lost was long deads. Those come extremely easy to Scaleria.
Okay, let's say theoretically, or actually not theoretically, let's say I go to the graphs right now, which I might do. Do you think that his army graph is going to go up or down?
Probably up.
Okay,
if he's competent at Scaleria, it's going up.
Mandar, what's your bet?
It might go down, but who cares? The army size graph is completely worthless.
Saquenay, up or down? You're no fun, Mandar.
No, but I agree, especially with Scaleria. Like the army score graph is completely, even without Scaleria, even without free spawn nations, it's sort of irrelevant in a lot of ways because the way it calculates size and just a lot of stuff, it's really a bad way to look at strength.
Okay, my guess is
it comes.
Oh, jeez, look at that.
Yep, that's Scaleria.
I should say
just what's Scaleria.
I should say it's bad to compare different nations. It's good to compare within one nation to see how you're doing over time, right? But it's impossible to compare two different nations. That's what I'm trying to say.
Oh my.
Which of those two top bars is Scaleria, and which one is Furmore?
Oh, so that's not there. Okay, good. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so it did go down. Okay.
I would like to. That would be in my favor. I called it.
I am very confused as to why the Scaleria hasn't beaten out the Irma by this point.
What's that, sorry?
I am very confused as to why the Scaleria hasn't beaten out the Irma in free spawn regeneration yet.
If I remember correctly, he was he got a really bad start and didn't have a whole lot of money, and now he's starting to just put down forts. All of his money's going towards forts. But as you can see, at this point, I don't know. I mean, I don't really know Scaleria because I normally don't see them in games, or they're played by bad players. How is this turn 20? Let's see, Saquenay, how well is he doing?
I guess I've seen better, but it's like Scaleria. There's like a transition period after year one, so you have to recruit dudes for expansion, but you're probably doing no research and just building reanimator priests, like from all your forts early on, and then you transition into like free spawn production. So I think usually by turn 20 you should be well into that, but he might have started that transition later. But usually by now you're producing ridiculous amount of free spawn and you have no research, but that's okay because nobody can really kill 2,000 skeletons on turn 20, and you go and you kill somebody with it. So that's usually what Scaleria looks like at this point.
Mandar,
so it looks like he's a little late.
Mandar, I have a bit of a psychological question. If you have your guys, here where it's adjacent, do you send all of your skeleton guys to a place where they can't see, say this one or this one, and patrol out spies, or do you just say like, if people see me, they see me?
I mean, you're Scaleria. If people see you, they should know that you have 7 million skeletons anyway. If they don't expect you to have 7 million skeletons as Scaleria, then they're dumb. hiding your skeletons is like Pangea hiding Maenads, or it's ridiculous.
Mhm.
Okay, so it's not worth the one turn to move him someplace. Like if there's a guy here to move him someplace adjacent, correct?
If it was free, it probably wouldn't be worth it.
Okay. Okay, moving on to the next one. Boring, and that's it. We kind
Can
of
I make
on...
a... well,
Yeah, go ahead.
Can I make a small comment on the Scalaria? I dislike the fact that there are labs in seemingly all of his forts. You are going to be recruiting only cultists out of some of these forts anyways. Why bother putting the 500 gold into it?
I agree with that.
Okay, so you said that normally you do the cultists, right?
Yes,
I actually kind of got an idea.
Mm-hmm.
There are thaumaturges here. Okay, so he only has cultists here. He has thaumaturge. He doesn't have any cultists in his capital. And if you start seeing, we're starting to see a pattern of a lot of thaumaturges. There's not one here, but and I think that he goes with a lot more research than what. In fact, I think we can see the research graphs here. Which one is Scalaria? So he's here in research, and I guess it's not really good, but it's pretty decent. So maybe he's going thaumaturges.
I'd be happy with that.
What?
Ooh, Queen buffing skeletons with body ethereal and twist fate. That is
really
a joke for all of you out there in TV land. That was a joke. Don't do that.
I'm really I don't want to give spoilers, but when he starts having fights, there's a lot of magic, and it's really good, and the guy utilizes magic very well. And so I don't want to spoil anything, but I do know he has a plan, but I don't know if it's worth sacrificing skeleton production. And that's...
I could believe that there's good stuff. I mean, Scalaria has good mages. It's not that the mages are bad. They are very good. It's just that you have to... Is your plan with mages better than having like 3,000 skeletons on turn, whatever, 25 or 30, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
that's the challenge that rush. That's a challenge. It's going to
leave you vulnerable to a rush. It's going to leave you vulnerable to like Anakites walking into you and just smushing you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so theoretically, that your Van, Aramor, and I guess what the artist formerly known as Ashdod, and you start next to Scalaria. Do you rush them right away? Is it like you have to kill them as fast as you possibly can? Let's go with Joe. What do you think?
If I have no national way to deal with 2,000 skeletons, and I'm particularly well positioned to rush, yes. Even if I'm not, I will heavily consider coalitioning with another neighbor.
Okay, Sac, your top 5 nations that must die at the beginning of a game. What would you say? Give me like a handful of them.
Yeah, Scalaria, Aramor, I guess Lemuria, if you're in late age. Those are... I mean, if you're underwater, that's a whole other can of worms, right? But just the land nations are those 3.
Mandar, do you got any others that you could add to that list?
No, Scalaria, Aramor, and Lemuria are by far the top 3. Everything else is in a tier of its own.
Now, Joe, do you attack Aramor even though you're not going to get anything out of it?
Assuming I play perfectly, I get other people to take the brunt of the attack for me, and I pretend I'm helping.
They're saying the same thing, dude.
Yeah, that really is the perfect way to deal with Aramor.
Mm-hmm. And then after they're mostly dead, I prey on their broken armies.
I mean, it's not like... It's tricky, right? The early game Diplo when you're trying to take out Aramor or Lemuria. But like, actually, I'm uploading right now. But the game where I'm playing LATNC, we're taking out Lemuria really early. a few of the neighbors. And I think that was like a textbook execution of how that should go. And nobody had to lose too much. Everybody got a little bit of land, a few gems. I ended up with Lemuria itself, so I get like 9 death gems per turn for the rest of the game. And everybody, and that it like builds, you don't gain like income, but you gain like trust and friendship with those neighbors, right? So there is value to doing that, right? Then it's like, okay, now let's move on and do something else, right? So there are other kinds of value that you can get from doing that.
Can I go a little bit farther into that, Saquenay? Do you usually find 1 or 2 players that you'll ride with to the end, or do you usually just, is it every man for himself type thing?
I think that depends a lot on the individuals, people that I know that I've played with before or not. And it'll depend on the game itself. Like, I think most good players are going to be willing to end a nap when it's the best moment, right? And so maybe newer players, you see the following thing with newer players more often, which is like, it's not that can't happen between advanced players. Sometimes that's the right call. But, you know, in Dominions, you have to be willing to throw your friend under the bus if that's the thing that's going to get you the win, right? Like, that's just the nature of a kind of strategy game like this.
Mandar, how often do you make alliances against, or coalitions for a better term? How often do you do coalitions against players?
All right. Alliances are never. That's not a thing. But coalitions all the fucking time. Part of why I have set up a couple of discords for important people is because I have experience setting up discords for coalitions just so we can bring people down. In fact, the first time that I met Saquenay was in a game where I pretty much immediately got with Stone Troll and coalitioned him. Coalitions, I don't like fair fights. Fuck fair fights. If I'm not 2v1ing someone, I'd like to go do something else. At least until the late game where I've grown enough that I can steamroll people on my own.
Now, Joe, how often do you coalition?
It's similar to Mandar. I am not inherently opposed to 1v1s as long as I have a very favorable matchup, because there is land that is being taken away from you in a coalition early on. But that depends a lot on the nation. There are some nations, like say I'm playing Early Age Xibalba. By the way, that is a nation that is usually, well, not coalitions against, but murdered early. But disregarding that for a fact, Early Age Xibalba can't fight its first war very well. But if I am playing Vanheim and I'm seeing a middle-aged TNG, I'm just walking in there. And there's nothing he can do to stop me.
What's interesting is, I'm sorry, were you done?
Oh, no, I was just going to mention that coalitions are really tempting, but you have to remember that it might make it easier to kill your opponent, but it also means you have to share the spoils with your partner.
Exactly.
I was going to go in on that.
It's not always to your advantage, yeah.
Yeah, because players like Lucid, for example, I don't see him coalitioning as often. Why is that?
Yeah, it's for that reason. So, and I'll add another caveat to coalitioning, and it might not necessarily be applicable to everybody, but if you're a player with some notoriety like Lucid, or any of us who does stuff on YouTube, people are let's take Lucid just as an example, right? People know he's a good player, they're afraid of him. If he partners up with somebody, then it sets him up to be a target later on, right? Lucid might not have any trouble 1v1ing somebody just in general, or a good player might just win a 1v1. But if they 2v1 somebody, I'm going to think, first of all, he got something for free. So now he's even more dangerous. you have to manage your other players' perception of you during the game, right? If you just go on a rampage with partners and you just keep killing people, knocking them over like dominoes, then other players in the game are going to see you as the next big threat, and then you risk being teamed up against yourself. Whereas if you win that fight in a 1v1, other people maybe are winning their own 1v1s. So after, you can say, look, we're all the same. We all had our first wars. It all cost us something. We're all now on an equal footing. So it can be easier to manage diplomacy that way if you're not joining a coalition.
It's really interesting because I was talking with Joe about how I do, like, my only game I'm playing as a co-op with the person playing a single nation, and it's Coconut, and he never ever coalitions, and I'm one of those guys that, like, I like to talk to people, get coalitions, work together, but I let him do all the Diplo, and I cannot think of one time that he's ever coalition, and we always win our first war very strong because he finds the right target. And it's kind of like with Arco. Arco's another player that he won't coalition. He'll just eat somebody off the bat. What are the advantages of, take for example, Van ignored Scaleria and went straight for Ashdod rather than dealing with the target that possibly could run over the game at turn 30. Why would you do that? Like, what advantage do you get from ignoring that and having a quick, successful war? Let's go with Mandar. What would be some advantages of that?
Of just a quick, successful war?
Rather than
you
dealing
get more
with
land.
Long term.
You get more land. Then you're big and scary. You can scare people off. You want to be the big fish. And you want to be the big fish without other people necessarily realizing that you're the big fish.
But the thing is that at this point, let's say that this is a very good Scaleria player, and I think that by turn 30, a good Scaleria player is almost unbeatable without a full everybody turning on them. Is that correct? Around turn 30?
Yeah, I'll buy that. Sounds about right.
He's got 10 turns to take this out and turn on Scaleria. I don't see it happening.
No, me neither. This is why coalition people.
Okay, so you would have gone after Scaleria.
Yep.
Okay. Saquenay, what's your thoughts? Do you coalition first, or do you try to hit the easy target?
Well, I'm not convinced. Without knowing the builds, let's say in the very early game, you've scouted who your neighbors are. You don't know exactly their builds. I don't know that Ashdod necessarily is much easier than Scaleria. Like, Scaleria before turn 20 is not super scary. They're not easy. They're not pushovers because your elves, hordes of skeletons are still, I don't mean the spell. Like, in general, a ton of skeletons are scary. He can convert your sacreds, your fans. Retarius are scary with the net and everything against your elves. So it's not going to be like super easy, but it doesn't strike me as much harder than going after Ashdod. So, I think I'd pick Scaleria. But here he has the problem that he also neighbors Airmore. So he's got two early targets that kind of have to be dealt with. So I think, honestly, when this game starts, you form a separate Discord channel with everybody except the Airmore and Scaleria players.
Yeah.
Well, sorry, you cut out a little bit, but I'm going to take that as an opportunity to say that the diplomacy in this game is completely open.
Okay. Well, I think you're still you just be open about it. Like, honestly, if I was going to join an open, look.
I think you cut out again.
Oh, sorry. I don't know why it's cutting out.
That's okay. We're actually reaching the end. I want to move on and let Joe have one last word on this. Open diplomacy. Are you are you going to be the first one to call for a coalition, or are you going to let somebody else do it, JoBrandon?
If you're playing Scalaria and Irmer, I think someone calling for a coalition, especially like even in an open diplomacy game, isn't even really surprising. It's just going to happen. If I'm the first or the second, it doesn't really matter.
Okay, and to leave that on that as on this right now, I'm going to tell you guys that there has been no coalition against either of those players up to this point, and I can tell you it's not going to happen within at least the next 5 to 6 turns. So we're going to leave you guys with that, and thank you guys for joining me. I really appreciate that. Thank you, Saquenay, for joining in and going through the hoops while we're actually doing the episode.
Oh, I'm glad I could join you guys.
Mandar,
this is fun. Thanks for having me.
Thank you again, especially after the last episode. You know, I botched the technical aspect of it. Thanks for joining up again. I appreciate it.
My pleasure.
And then JoBrandon, it's been wonderful to do a back-to-back episode. So thank you again for joining with us.
It's been great.
Okay, hopefully see you guys in an upcoming episode, and have a good one. Bye.